Tell us you make wrong connections, even when they feel right. You think you're in control. You wake up, make your coffee, pick your clothes, choose what to say, what to believe, who to trust. And every single one of those choices, you're convinced you made them. But what if I told you there's something happening inside your head, right now as you watch this, that you have absolutely zero control over? And not just zero control, you're not even aware it's happening. Here's where it gets wild. 2 words, that's all it takes. Bananas vomit. Go ahead, read those 2 words again. Something just happened to you. Your face probably shifted, just slightly, maybe a mild wave of discomfort. Your body pulled back even a little. Your heart rate ticked up. Some of you may have even felt a faint trace of nausea. And here's the thing. Nobody warned you. Nobody asked you to feel anything. You just did. That reaction, that was your brain doing something it does every second of every day, completely without your permission. Researchers call it associative activation, and once you understand how it works, you will never see your own mind the same way again. Your brain is not a library where information just sits on shelves, waiting quietly to be accessed. It's more like a giant web, millions of nodes, all connected, all constantly buzzing. The moment one node gets activated, it sends ripples outward, and those ripples activate more nodes, which activate more and more. All of it happening beneath the surface, all of it happening before you have a single conscious thought. So when you read bananas and then vomit, your brain didn't just register 2 words, it built a story. It connected them in time. It implied cause and effect, and then it responded to that story as if it were real. Your body literally reacted to words on a screen. And the scariest part, that is not a bug. That is the system working exactly as designed. Philosophers have known about the association of ideas for centuries. Back in 1748, the Scottish philosopher David Hume described it. He said ideas connect through resemblance, proximity in time, and cause and effect. Smart guy. But even he had no idea how deep the rabbit hole actually goes. Because what modern science has uncovered is something that would have shocked Hume completely. It's not just that ideas connect in your conscious mind, it's that your brain is running a massive, invisible machine underneath everything you think and feel. And most of the time, you are not the one driving it. So who is? Stay with me, because the answer to that question changes everything. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt weird, like something shifted in the air but you couldn't explain why? Or you made a decision, quickly, confidently, and when someone asked you why, you struggled to give a real reason? Or maybe you've been in a conversation and suddenly felt less generous, more distant, somehow colder, and you had no idea where that feeling came from. What you experienced wasn't random. It wasn't your mood. It wasn't just one of those days. You were primed. Here's what that means, and why it should stop you cold. In the 1980s, researchers made a discovery that quietly rewrote everything we thought we knew about human behavior. They found that being exposed to a single word, any word, causes measurable, immediate changes in how easily dozens of related ideas come to mind. If you recently saw the word eat, you're more likely to complete the letters SOP as soup, not soap. If you recently saw the word wash, it flips. You get soap. Your brain is constantly being shaped by what it just touched. Words, images, sounds, places. The environment around you is silently loading new software into your head every single moment. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. A group of college students, young, sharp, between 18 and 22, were given a simple puzzle. They had to arrange scrambled words into sentences. For half of them, the words secretly included things like Florida, bingo, wrinkles, grey, forgetful. Nobody said anything about old age. The word old never appeared once. Then they were told to walk down the hallway to the next part of the experiment, and researchers stood there with a stopwatch. The students who had unscrambled those words, they walked significantly slower down that hallway. Their bodies had picked up a message their conscious minds never received. When asked afterward, every single one of them said, "No, nothing about that task could have affected how I walk." They were completely certain. They were completely wrong. This is what researchers call the ideomotor effect, an idea influencing physical action. And what makes it almost philosophical is this: the idea never even entered conscious awareness. Now, think about what this means for you. Every room you walk into, every conversation you have, every image you scroll past on your phone, every song playing in the background at the grocery store, all of it is priming you. All of it is loading associations into a system that will then quietly nudge your feelings, your decisions, your behavior, without ever asking for your consent. And you'll walk away thinking you chose it all yourself. But the story goes even deeper, because it's not just your actions that get primed, it's your body. Have you ever held a pencil between your teeth, horizontally like a bit, while reading something? No? Try it sometime. Researchers asked students to rate how funny a series of cartoons were. Half of them held a pencil between their teeth in a way that forced their face into a shape resembling a smile. The other half held it with their lips, forcing a frown. The smiling group, who had no idea they were smiling, rated the cartoons as funnier. Not because the cartoons were different, not because they were in a better mood. Their face was in a shape, their brain read the shape, and it adjusted their emotional experience to match. Your body doesn't just express your feelings, your body creates them. And right now, without realizing it, you're doing this constantly. Let me show you how far this goes, because most people hear about priming and think, okay, interesting, but it's just small stuff, right? Just nudges around the edges? No. What researchers have uncovered reaches into places that should genuinely make you pause. Picture this. An ordinary office kitchen at a university in England. Every day, people come in and make their own tea or coffee. There's an honesty box. You take what you want, you pay what you owe. Nobody watches. You just do the right thing or don't. For years, the researchers posted a suggested price list on the wall. Normal, routine. Nobody thought twice. Then one week they added something above the price list. Just an image, no explanation. Some weeks it was flowers. Other weeks it was a pair of eyes looking directly at you. That's it. No cameras. No notes, no warnings, just a picture of eyes. And here's what happened. On the weeks with eyes, people paid almost 3 times more into the honesty box than on the flower weeks. Nobody knew why. Nobody even noticed the change consciously. When asked, people had no explanation for the difference, but their behavior tracked it perfectly. A symbolic reminder of being watched, just pixels on paper, changed how honest people were with their money. Now ask yourself this: how many invisible eyes are watching you right now? Not real ones, but images, symbols, contexts, environments, all of it silently signaling to your brain what kind of person you're supposed to be in this moment. And here's the one that really gets me: money. Researchers sat people down in a room where, in the background, completely out of focus, seemingly irrelevant, there was a stack of Monopoly money on a table, or a screensaver of dollar bills floating on water. Nothing was said about it. It was just there. Later, when a researcher clumsily dropped a bunch of pencils, the participants with the money prime picked up fewer of them to help. When asked to set up chairs for a conversation with a stranger, the money-primed people placed the chairs farther apart, almost 50 centimeters farther. The people who had been unconsciously reminded of money became more self-reliant, more private, and less generous. They didn't decide to be, they just were. One psychologist who ran these studies was remarkably measured about drawing conclusions, but she left the implication hanging in the air like a question nobody wants to answer. What does it mean to live in a culture soaked in money imagery? What is it doing to us? And that question extends further. What about the images you're surrounded by every day? What about the words in headlines you scroll past without reading? What about the symbols in the spaces where you live, work, eat? You are constantly, silently being shaped. And here's the deepest layer of all. When you feel shame, real, genuine moral discomfort about something you've done or thought, researchers found you become significantly more likely to want to wash your hands. Not metaphorically, literally. People told to imagine a betrayal, stabbing a colleague in the back, figuratively, became far more interested in buying soap and hand sanitizer compared to people who imagined neutral acts. The soul wants to be clean, so the body follows. This is called the Lady Macbeth effect, and it tells us something strange and profound. The mind and body are not separate systems communicating through cables. They are one system, constantly, silently, talking to each other. And you're only conscious of a tiny fraction of the conversation. So here's the question that's been building this whole time. If all of this is happening beneath the surface, if your brain is constantly making connections, running associations, loading primes, shaping your behavior before you ever form a conscious thought, who are you? Not in a philosophical, abstract sense. I mean practically, right now, this moment. Is the you that makes decisions actually the one in charge? Or is that you more like a narrator, someone who shows up after the fact, sees what the system already did, and writes a story to explain it? Here's what the research suggests, and I want you to sit with this for a second. When your System 1, that fast automatic associative machine, processes the world, it does something remarkable. It doesn't just react. It builds coherence. It links things together into a story that makes sense. Every idea it activates strengthens the ones connected to it. Emotions reinforce thoughts. Thoughts reinforce physical reactions. Physical reactions reinforce emotions. Everything loops. Everything amplifies. Everything hangs together with a kind of invisible logic, and the story feels real. It feels like you chose it. It feels like your reasoning, your conclusion, your judgment. But the coherence came first. The reasoning came second, to explain what the machine already decided. This is why psychologists talk about people being strangers to themselves. Not because we're bad at introspection, but because the part of us doing most of the real work is fundamentally inaccessible to conscious view. You know less about yourself than you feel like you do, and that is not a comfortable thing to hear. But here's what makes this genuinely life-changing, rather than just unsettling. Once you know the machine exists, once you can feel the edges of it, you start noticing things you couldn't see before. You start noticing when a feeling came from somewhere you didn't consciously choose, when a preference was loaded into you before you had a chance to evaluate it, when your decision was really just the final frame of a process that started minutes, hours, or years earlier. And in those moments you get something rare, a gap, a tiny space between stimulus and response where the real you, the reflective, choosing, slow-thinking you, can actually step in, not to override the machine. You can't. It's too fast, too powerful, too deeply built, but to notice it. And sometimes to ask, is this actually what I think, or is this what I was primed to think? That question is worth more than most people know. Because here's the thing about that office kitchen with the eyes and the honesty box. Nobody told those people to be more honest. Nobody guilt-tripped them. Nobody threatened consequences. They just looked up and saw something that reminded them of being seen, and they became briefly a little bit more like the person they already wanted to be. The machine can be set in motion by forces outside your control, but it can also be set in motion by you. The images you choose to surround yourself with, the words you let into your head in the morning, the environments you build for yourself, and the people you love. You are being primed every single day. The only question is, by what? Somewhere right now, someone else is reading these same words, same chapter, same ideas, and the machine in their head is already running.